proceed. Honourable members, I wish to recognize in the Speaker's gallery a delegation from the Parliament of Uganda. The delegation is led by the Honourable Robert Sentamu Chagulanyi and is accompanied by 1. Hilary Musemeta, 2. Andrew Karamagi, 3. Roy Semboga, and 4. David Lewis. The delegation is in the country following an invitation by the member for Embakasi East, Honorable Owino Paul Ongili, MP, on a benchmarking exercise aimed at transferring knowledge and mutual capacity building in accountable democracy and good governance. On my own behalf and that of the House, I welcome them to observe the proceedings in the National Assembly and wish them fruitful engagements as they are here. Let's move to the next order then. And I wish to recognize members of the group who are sitting also in the Speaker's gallery. But in the meantime, I want to know from the Sergeant at Arms, who are the strangers? May I get the Speaker, the Sergeant at Arms to draw the bar? Yes, indeed, honourable members, as you can see, there's a presence of strangers at the bar of the House, and the strangers appear to be fairly young. I wonder that the Sergeant at Arms, having drawn the bar immediately, allows 1 Miss Mary Georgia Onyango. Who is representing the strangers. Proceed, Miss Mary Georgia Onyango, to introduce yourself.
the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, honorable members of the National Assembly, good afternoon. My name is Mary Georgia Onyango. I'm 17 years old from Nairobi County, Soweto area of Embakasi, and a Form 3 student at St. Thaddeus High School. Honorable Speaker, today together with my colleagues from 8 other schools are visiting the National Assembly as ambassadors to the girl child. Indeed, we are humbled and grateful to you, Honorable Speaker, for granting us this rare and unprecedented opportunity to appear to the bar of the National Assembly to request you to the present to present a petition that is very dear to us. Honorable Speaker, today being the 11th day of October 2018, the entire world is marking the International Day of the Girl Child. It is for this reason that we are deeply humbled for this opportunity availed by the National Assembly to raise the national profile of this annual event. As your children, we are also thrilled by the fact that honorable members of this House have accepted to partner with us on this January. Honorable Speaker, we therefore beseech you to kindly accept to present this petition to the House, preferably at this moment while we are still in the bar of the House. Thank you.
Very well, honorable members. That is a fair request coming from our youth. I therefore direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to receive the petition and hand it over to the clerk. Fellow honorable members, I have perused this petition and I find it in order and in compliance with our rules. And proceed to read it in terms of Standing Order number 225, subsection 2, paragraph B, requiring, as usual, the Speaker to read to the House a petition other than those presented by members. And this one is by Mary Georgia Onyango, a student at St. Thaddeus High School, on behalf of the girl child of Kenya. Honourable members, cognizant the International Day for the Girl Child is celebrated today, October 11, 2018. I've chosen to convey this petition immediately while the petitioners await at the bar of the House, which I hereby do. The petitioners observe that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, require all partner states to commit to ensuring that no girl child is left behind or unable to achieve her potential. Further, the petitioners note that cases of gender-based violence have been on the rise in the country, and that they ordinarily take long to investigate and resolve, causing untold suffering to the victims. Honourable members, the petitioners therefore pray that amongst other legislative interventions, the National Assembly causes a review of the existing policy and legal framework, notably the Children's Act 2003, to enable the girl child to easily identify, prevent, and effectively respond to any instances of gender-based violence. The petitioners also pray that the House legislates comprehensively to fully actualize the enjoyment of and protection of the children's rights as enshrined in our Constitution, noting that the Children's Act of 2003 came into force before the 2010 Constitution. Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 227, this petition therefore stands committed to the Departmental Committee on Labour and Social Welfare for consideration. I urge the committee to engage the petitioners and report its findings to the House within 60 days or even earlier. I thank you, honourable members. In the meantime, as I allow members to comment, to make limited comments, I will allow the petitioners who are at the bar to take some seats to be provided by the Sergeant at Arms as members make comments. Yeah, you undrew the bar now. Honorable Soipantuya. Very well. Honorable Okello.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That, to me, is a very timely and a very much in order petition presented by our young people. But allow me, firstly, Mr. Speaker, before I delve into it, to also bring to your attention that the guests that we have from Uganda, led by Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, is also known as, or alias, Bobby Wine.
Honorable Okello, we are only dealing with this particular petition.
Yes, I was coming to that. Just
no. If you don't have anything about this petition, allow me to...
Mr. Speaker, the petition as presented by our young people is very much in order, and I would urge that we treat it with a lot of urgency and caution, because we know of lots of violence meted on young people that many a times go fastly, unattended to, and unreported by the victims. So if we put more legislative power on this kind of petition, I want to believe that our young people and those who have been sidelined by issues of gender would be in a position to report in time, witness protection be employed, and above all, remedial measures will be taken against the perpetrators. And hence, I support the petition, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Member for Isiolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the petition by the young ambassadors. I want to congratulate the young ambassadors for bringing a very timely, accurate petition. Mr. Speaker, as I rise to support this, I want to share with the House the challenges the girl childs are going through. Mr. Speaker, only this morning,
that the country has made attempts in the recent past to address the plight of the girl child. But a lot more needs to be done, Mr. Speaker, because the girl child remains vulnerable. And this House must take the lead. This House must take the lead in making appropriate measures, taking appropriate measures to ensure that the girl child is not only protected, but is also encouraged and nurtured to achieve their full potential. Mr. Speaker, you know, the youth generally represent the future of the country. And therefore, any investments in terms of addressing the issues that affect them adversely is an investment in the future of the country. And therefore, I support and urge that the committee responsible for this takes up the matter and addresses it expeditiously. Thank you.
Member for Narok.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not a member of Narok. This is a member of Marakwet East.
Then you must be using a card that shows the name of the member for Narok.
No, this is my card, Speaker. I think there is a digital error somewhere there. Mr. Speaker, let me have this opportunity to support the petition and congratulate the student who actually brought this petition into this House. And Mr. Speaker, let me say In the country, there is no shortage of laws, especially that protects the children and also the young girls, Mr. Speaker. The problem, Mr. Speaker, is the implementing agencies. We have seen several cases, including just the one which was mentioned by the member of Isholo. Somebody has raped a student, impregnated, and taken to court, given a bail of 100,000. Mr. Speaker, I think, Mr. Speaker, as we dispense this petition, we want to ask the committee, Mr. Speaker, to dig deep into this petition and also make it a legislation so that we can have a very thorough penalties, Mr. Speaker, on the perpetrators. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this petition. We want to support our girls because we are their fathers, we are their brothers, and we want to assure them, Mr. Speaker, that we will support them. Thank you.
Member for Kitui South.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. I would like to start by saying that I support this petition. I would also like to congratulate the young girl who has made an eloquent presentation on the floor of the House. To me, I see this as a very good start for her life. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that this is a matter of urgency. It's a matter that needs to be handled as fast as possible because children, our girls in our societies are being taken through a lot of difficulty. We have many cases of rape, gender-based violence happening within the families, within schools, where children expect to get the best protection. And Honorable Speaker, the worst is when it comes to the people who are supposed to investigate, some of them being compromised, not taking the right actions, making sure that there are inconsistencies in the evidence that is provided. So I would like to say that this is a matter that needs to be taken very seriously by our committee, our able Committee of Labor and Social Affairs, and I support, and I would like to urge the House also to support. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Finally, member for Nambale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I rise to add my voice in great support to the initiative and initiative brought before the House by the young ladies, and extremely well presented, very impressive indeed. Mr. Speaker, sir, I like to say on record, for example, I believe in this strongly in Nambale, we have been able to equalize, and in fact, we are now beginning to exceed, unfortunately, the opportunities in education for the girl child. I believe that in society, even in life, they should be balanced, but because we are coming from a low base, we have put in several measures that have increased enrollment through high school to equalize. But I think more important, I think that's why the petition is even much more timely, is that we should think about the opportunities for the girl person, the girl child, the girl person, through the cycle of life. So that it's not just at this, at the young ages we can remove the deficit in opportunity at education, but I think that through life they should get equal opportunity as people, and there should be now no longer need for special consideration because we shall take it as normal thing. So I think this is a good start. I support it strongly, and I urge the House to support the petition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Let's hear the last one from member for Homa Bay Town.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the House on the petition. Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking the young ambassadors for presenting this timely and important petition. Mr. Speaker, let me also thank you on behalf of the National Assembly for permitting that this important petition, and more so the petitioners, be allowed a step into the House to present it in person. It's indeed a recognition that the National Assembly takes this day very seriously, because I remember, Mr. Speaker, this is not something in the tradition of Parliament under the new Constitution has been permitted before. Mr. Speaker, the new Constitution places the family at the center of the society. And for the first time, Mr. Speaker, when we legislated the new Constitution, a whole Article 53 of the Constitution is dedicated to the rights of the child. Mr. Speaker, attempts have been made to amend the Children's Act and the laws relevant to the protection of the children generally, and the girl child in particular. Mr. Speaker, those efforts have not succeeded and have not placed, more particularly the girl child, where they rightly belong. Mr. Speaker will remember the efforts we made in the 11th Parliament, an effort that was the effort of Honorable Millie Odhiambo, Honorable Soipan Tuya, and myself, to try to put Article 53 of the Constitution under the Children's Act, which we lost, Mr. Speaker, if you can remember, because of the politics of the moment at the time. What the honorable members would be reminded about is that if you look at the Constitution at Article 53, it says that all children have the right to parental responsibility, which includes protection and care from all parents, whether or not they are married. When you still go to the Children's Act, Mr. Speaker, even with that constitutional provision, we are saying that for children, and I'm talking in the context of girl children, born outside of marriage or whose parents are not married, their fathers can only take kitty to do the work that the petition calls upon the National Assembly to undertake. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, well spoken. As indicated, and you may have noticed, some members, I deliberately allocated more than the usual time from the following institutions: PCA Ongata Rongai Academy, Kajiado North Constituency, Kajiado County; Dr. Kraft Primary School, Makadara Constituency, Nairobi County; and those from Malilima Primary School, Kajiado Central Constituency, Kajiado County; Nyagaturgu Primary School, Kangema Constituency, Murang'a County. They are all welcome to observe the proceedings of the National Assembly this afternoon.
Order number 5,
just
papers.
Papers, the leader majority.
Soy, Lam West, Mboni, Kathiani, Mavoko constituencies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Chair, Departmental Committee of Agriculture.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, October 11, 2018.
Honourable members, I have a number of requests to defer some of the questions that have been placed on the order paper. The first request is by the Honorable David Ole Sankok, Honorable Naisula Lesunda, Honorable Obo Rueda, and the Honorable Elisha Odhiambo. Their questions will be deferred to some other dates. I've also received indication that the Honorable Christopher Nakuleu is no longer interested in the question that he had proposed to ask. Well, for all manner of reasons. Therefore, we will start with a question by member for Likoni constituency, Honorable Mishi Mboko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My question goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Mr. Speaker, sir, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of acquisition of new ferry for the Likoni Channel, cognizant that funds were allocated for the procurement process during the financial year 2017-2018? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well. The question is to be responded to before the Departmental Committee on Transport and Public Works and Housing to prioritize the date when they want the Cabinet Secretary to appear. Next, the member for Suna West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask a question to the Cabinet Secretary for Defense. Could the Cabinet Secretary for Defense explain the criteria used in determining the number of persons to be recruited into the Kenya Defense Forces for a particular area in a given recruitment exercise, and provide a list of the total number of persons from Suna West constituency recruited in the KDF during the last recruitment exercise conducted in February-March 2018. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the matter referred to the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to also prioritize it, while at the same time informing you when the Cabinet Secretary is scheduled to appear. So on the request, the question by Honorable Luwainda Mohammed is deferred. The next one is the question by the Honorable Naisula Lesuda, deferred. The Honorable David Ole Sankok, deferred. The next one is by the member for Mumias East constituency, who is also the majority whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to ask question number 041 of 2018 to the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock. Could the Cabinet Secretary state, A, when the ministry plans to gazette the sugar sector regulations? B, what measures are in place to revive the sugar industry in the country in general, and in particular, the Mumias Sugar Company? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Cabinet Secretary will appear before the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock to prioritize. Next question, member for Saboti constituency, Caleb Amisi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My question goes to Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain, one, the status of implementation and operationalization of the Social Assistance Act 2013, B, the achievements that have been realized by the National Social Assistance Authority since its establishment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Similarly, referring to the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare to prioritize and inform the member when the Cabinet Secretary is due to appear. Honourable members, the next question is by the Honourable Elisha, member for Game, Elisha Odhiambo, who has indicated and requested that it be deferred, which request has been granted. Next. No, Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee. The committee met on Tuesday this week at the rise of the House to give priority to the business that will be considered. Honorable Speaker, next Tuesday, the House Business Committee has scheduled 2 reports for consideration by the House. And these are the report of a delegation to the annual World Bank Conference on Land and Poverty. 2, the report of the Special Fund Accounts Committee on the audited financial statements for the National Government Constituency Development Fund for the constituencies in Nairobi County. On the same day, we will consider in the Committee of the Whole House the County Government Retirement Scheme Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2018, and the second reading of the following bills: the Warehouse Receipts Systems Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2017, the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2017. The Supplementary Appropriation number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2018, and the Parliamentary Service Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2018. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, subsection 5, I wish to convey that having consulted with the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning and that of Environment and Natural Resources, the following questions are scheduled for reply by the specific Cabinet Secretaries. 1. Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Planning will appear before the Committee on Finance and Planning on Tuesday, the 16th October 2018, to answer questions number 007/2018 from Honorable John Oro, MP, and question number 0018 of 2018 from the Honorable Godfrey Osotsi. 2, the Cabinet Secretary for Wildlife and Tourism will appear before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on Tuesday, October 16th, 2018, to answer questions. No, on Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018, to answer questions on number 001-2018 from Honorable Martin Owino, MP, and question number 002-2018 from Honorable Christopher Nakuleu. 3, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of Government will appear before the Committee on Administration and National Security on Tuesday, 23rd, 2018, to answer questions from the following members: Honorable Kalip Kosetani, Honorable Peter Kaluma, and Honorable Cyprian Kubai, and Honorable Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir. Finally, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock will appear before the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock on Thursday, 18th October 2018, to answer questions from the following members: Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi, MP, Honorable Otiende Amolo, MP, and Honorable Silas Tiren.
Recognition of students and mentors in the commemoration of the International Day for the Girl Child. And honourable members, the following petition, which we have just dealt with, which was conferred by the ambassador of the Girl Child, I wish to recognize the following persons, led by Mr. Samuel Musioka, County Director, Plan International, Inuska, and Joseph Bugwa. On my own behalf and that of the House, I wish to welcome them to the National Assembly, and I'm sure they have enjoyed the proceedings relating to the petition presented by the Girl Child Ambassador. Thank you very much. Honourable members, this communication relates to the second reading of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, number 2, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2018, sponsored by the Honourable Chris Wamalwa. As you recall, last week on Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018, the House concluded debate on the second reading of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill number 2, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2018, moved by the Honourable Member for Kiminini Constituency, the Honourable Chrysantas Wamalwa. During the debate, the mover requested the Speaker to delay putting the question for the second reading, understanding order number 53, subsection 3, until such time when not less than 233 members, being 2/3 of all the members of the National Assembly, will be available as required under Article 256, Clause 1, Paragraph D of the Constitution. Honourable members, indeed, the provisions of Article 256, 1D of the Constitution provide that a bill to amend the Constitution shall be passed by the House if it is supported by not less than 2/3 of all members of that House at the second and third readings. In the request, the members seem to vest the obligation of availing the members required to vote on the Speaker. Further, during the sitting, the Honourable Chrysantas Wamalwa claimed that the Speaker had already determined that the particular bill does not require to be approved by a referendum in terms of Article 255 of the Constitution. Honourable members, as you are aware, the bill by the Honourable Wamalwa seeks to amend the Constitution to change the election date from second Tuesday in August in every 5th year to Monday in December of every 5th year. During debate on the bill, some members expressed concern that the bill requires approval by a referendum, as changing the election date from August to December would in effect also touch on the term of office of the President in terms of extending the term of that office. Honourable members, Article 256 of the Constitution prescribes the procedure for considering bills to amend the Constitution by parliamentary initiative. In particular, Article 256, Clause 5 of the Constitution provides that if a bill to amend the Constitution proposes an amendment relating to a matter specified in Article 255(1) of the Constitution, the President shall, before assenting to the bill, request the IEBC to conduct within 90 days a national referendum for approval of the bill. In this regard, from a plain reading of Article 256, Clause 5 of the Constitution, it is clear that the responsibility of determining whether a bill to amend the Constitution requires approval by referendum or not does not lie with the Speaker of the National Assembly or indeed of this House. The role of the Houses of Parliament is to exercise their legislative authority in terms of passing a bill to amend the Constitution, and once passed in both Houses and forwarded to the President for assent, it is upon the Presidency to determine whether such a bill relates to matters under Article 255. Honourable members, therefore, contrary to the claim by the member for Community, neither the Speaker nor the Office of the Clerk have the powers to determine whether a bill requires approval by a referendum or not, as this falls within the jurisdiction and powers of the President in terms of Article 256(5), paragraph A of the Constitution. To interpret the provisions otherwise would be contrary to the provision of Article 256 of the Constitution and is analogous and tantamount to putting the heart of the President on the person of the Speaker. In view of the above, honourable members, and following the request by the Honourable Chris Wamalwa to delay putting of the question for second reading, I wish to guide as follows. 1, that the obligation to ensure that any bill obtains the requisite voting threshold lies squarely with the mover of the bill. Additionally, the honourable member needs to be conscious of the dictates of Standing Order number 141 on lapsing of bills that may be occasioned by inordinate delay in putting of the question for second reading. In this regard, I wish to notify the member and the House that the question for second reading of that particular bill shall be put on Wednesday, October 17th in the afternoon, during the afternoon sitting. 2, that it is expected that the member for Community, who is also the minority party deputy whip, will lobby all members to be present and to participate in electronic or roll call voting on that day. Should 233 members vote in support of the motion for second reading of the bill, the House Business Committee will thereafter schedule the bill for consideration in committee of the whole House and third reading, which will be undertaken at some later sittings of the House. 3, that should the motion for second reading of the bill fail to obtain the required numbers in support and the result of the vote satisfies the requirement of Standing Order number 62(2), I will avail a further and last opportunity for the vote to take place at a later sitting. It is worth noting, though, that a last voting opportunity ought to take place within 5 sitting days from the day of the initial vote. I thank you, and I hope this is clear to the mover, the Honourable Chris Wamalwa. Begin marshalling people, lobbying members to be present. This second communication of members relates to members who have relinquished their positions in the Committee on Selection. Honourable members, before the House proceeds to consider business appearing as number 11, allow me to inform the House that I have received notification from the chairperson of the Committee on Selection regarding 2 members wishing to relinquish their membership in the committee. The members are the Honourable Jude Jomo, member for Kiambu Town, and the Honourable Dr. Makali Mulu, member for Kitui Central. Honourable members, the 2 members have cited other parliamentary duties and responsibilities assigned to them by the House as reasons for relinquishing their positions in the Committee on Selection. For clarity, the Honourable Jude Jomo is a member of the 4th Pan-African Parliament, which holds its regular sittings in Mintran, South Africa, while the Honourable Dr. Makali Mulu, MP, is the regional representative for the Eastern Africa region in the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Executive Committee. He is also a member of that committee, indeed. Honourable members, I've taken the liberty to convey this information to the House so that the absence of the two members from the Committee on Selection is not to be construed to mean that they have since been discharged from the committee in terms of Standing Order 176. Their slots in the Committee on Selection are therefore available for replacement by the respective parties in accordance with our standing orders. I therefore take this opportunity to thank the two honorable members for their magnanimity and wish them well in their additional continental assignments. I thank you, honorable members. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report of the 6th ordinary session of the 4th Pan-African Parliament. Question to be put.
Members making their way, please, if you could. Member for Suna East, why don't you just take a seat next to the Honorable Wamulele? He is not harmful. Honorable members, debate on this motion was concluded on Tuesday this week. What remained was for the question to be put, which I hereby do, that this House notes the report of the 6th ordinary session of the 4th Pan-African Parliament held in Gallagher Convention Center, Midrand, South Africa, from the 7th to the 18th. Yes, Leader Majority.
Speaker, standing on standing order number 95, I think members debated this matter exhaustively. So is it in order we call the mover to reply? Yes?
Yeah. Members, the question proposed is, under standing order number 95, that debate on this motion. Honorable Wanga, where are you? Even if you want to go and sit next to the member for Suna East, please, still remain in the House. So the question to be put is that the mover be called upon to reply. As many as that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say no. No. The ayes have it. Mover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to appreciate the House for this motion on the Departmental Committee of Environment and Natural Resources regarding the inquiry on the environmental pollution by London Distillers, Kenya Limited. Mr. Speaker, protection laws and ask them to desist from releasing their poisonous affluent to the detriment of the neighborhood. Mr. Speaker, we cannot afford to have waste being dumped into the water that people and animals downstream are consuming, which will eventually result to bad health, to various cancers, and even death. Mr. Speaker, indeed going by the contribution of many members to this motion and by the investigation by the committee, it is clear that the authority that is charged with the responsibility of protecting the environment, that is National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, seems to be sluggish in executing its mandate. We know that the authority seems to be incapacitated, and therefore the committee, and as early as 4 a.m. in the morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to reply. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I therefore put the question. Member for Kitui Central, I want to put the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on an inquiry into complaints of environmental pollution by London Distillers, Kenya Limited, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, August 29, 2018, subject to deletion of the word tabling appearing in Recommendation 1, Paragraph 1, Recommendation 2, Paragraph 1 and 5 and 6, and Recommendation 6, Paragraph 1 and 2, and substituting therefore the words adoption by the House. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it.
Order number 10, motion, report of the Committee on Implementation on House Resolution.
Honorable Chair of the Committee, Honorable Lekenta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Implementation in respect of petition by Canafric Industries Limited on the implementation of the recommendation in paragraph 108 of the report by the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives on the crisis facing the sugar industry in Kenya, adopted by the House on 24th February 2016. And reconsiders its resolution made on 24th of February 2016, which was arrived at following inaccurate information contained in recommendation 108, page 50 of the said report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives. And 2, resolves to expunge the name Canafric Industry Limited from resolution of the 24th February 2016 as contained in the recommendation 108, page 50 of the said report. Honorable Speaker, this is actually one of the cases that emanate from the debate by this House on the sugar crisis in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, as a committee that is mandated to follow up on the resolutions and petitions passed by this House, the Committee on Implementation has actually been following these issues. Honorable Speaker, maybe to let the House know the genesis of this issue, there was actually a petition by the Western Initiative Association, which was actually on the imminent collapse of the sugar industry. Honorable Speaker, this is a very crucial issue, and in fact, this report was adopted and has been a very hot topic, as most members are aware of. Honorable Speaker, the report, as I said before, actually identified Canafric Industries as one of the companies that were actually repackaging sugar for consumption by by the Kenyan populace. Honorable Speaker, the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives, after deliberations, actually recommended that this company should not be allowed to deal in sugar. Honorable Speaker, when Canafric Industry was mentioned adversely, it actually wrote to the committee concerned, that's the Committee on Agriculture and Cooperatives, to have its name expunged because it did not deal in any way or at any one time in human sugar or table sugar. Honorable Speaker, they actually, through their lawyer, resolved to write to this House and to the committee in particular, telling them that they would like to appear to clear this issue. Honorable Speaker, even though the letter was actually received by the committee, then the committee failed or neglected to give them a chance to explain themselves. Honorable Speaker, because of that, that issue, actually the committee said that they could not consultations here. I'm not even unable to proceed. There are not consultations.
What?
Too loud. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. While the committee was actually pursuing this matter, among others, as far as the sugar crisis is concerned, the Honorable Speaker issued a communication on the 30th of August 2018, that is order number 046 of 2018, on the consideration of the House of the resolution by to the Committee of Implementation. And this was based on the fact that Canafric had actually complained that it was never given an opportunity to be heard. And as everybody really realizes, that was actually a failure on the part of the committee concerned, because it is against the rule of natural justice for anybody to be condemned and heard. Honorable Speaker, after receiving the petition, which was actually passed through your office or the office of the clerk, and which was actually necessitated by the petition by the advocate for the company, that is Morgan and Company Advocates, we were seized of the matter at the Implementation Committee. Honorable Speaker, after receiving the petition, as instructed by yourself, Honorable Speaker, as instructed by the Honorable Speaker, we gave the company an opportunity to be heard. Honorable Speaker, having realized that the committee cannot, the country cannot, the parliament cannot afford to set a precedent of actually of not allowing people an opportunity to be heard in such a matter, which actually involved their livelihood, the employment of their people, we had an opportunity to listen to Canafric Industries. Honorable Speaker, we observed that actually, true to the claim by Canafric, they were never given an opportunity to be heard. And they appeared before the committee. And Honorable Speaker, for us to have heard them and to have confirmed what they said, we also had to call the Ministry of Agriculture and Sugar Directorate to confirm what they said. Honorable Speaker, it is also very important for this House to understand that when we called the Sugar Directorate, they actually confirmed that this was an anomaly. They've always been licensing Canafric, and Canafric has never dealt in table sugar. In fact, it has always been importing industrial sugar, which was actually used for confectionaries. In fact, they also confirmed that they've been doing inspections at all times, and at no time did they find any evidence of any packaging of table sugar by the said company. In fact, when the committee confronted them and said and asked them how you could have made such far-reaching representations or presentations to the Committee on Agriculture, they were lost for words. And they actually, it became a blame game between the Sugar Directorate and the different Sugar Board. Honorable Speaker, it is very important to note that when they said the company appeared before us, it was very clear that it actually operates in Nairobi only. It does not buy sugar from any other company in Kenya, and that actually there is an audit of any consignments brought in by this company. They actually even confirmed to the committee that it will not make any economic sense for a company to package industrial sugar as table sugar, because it's more expensive and it will need 3 times the quantities for it to taste as much as the table sugar. So, Honorable Speaker, it was very clear from the beginning that this was actually an inaccurate presentation to Parliament. Honorable Speaker, it should be very clear to this House that this House job is actually not to curtail the business of the Kenyan people, but to actually ensure that there is a good working environment. Because what happened is that after what was put in that report, this company lost a lot of international business, which actually cost the country substantial amounts of money, in millions of dollars, because of the fact that the company was mentioned in a negative manner or in a negative light. Honorable Speaker, it is also very important to note that where else we have got problems in the sugar industry, the corruption has emanated from this kind of corruption has actually led to the destruction of many innocent companies. And Canafric is one of them, and it is actually something that should not be encouraged. Because what transpired is that there was actually unnecessary modes of corruption, unnecessary finger-pointing, and unnecessary cutting of people's names and companies' names, and Parliament was actually made to do single evidence that a certain brand of sugar was actually packaged by this company. And I believe when we had them out, there was no way that we will actually have this recommendation stand. Honorable Speaker, what the committee observed is that was a very dangerous move. And it was not done by Parliament, but it was done by an entity that was supposed to guide Parliament, the licensing authority. And because of that, we actually will call upon Parliament to call them to account, because we do not know how many other companies were actually condemned and hurt. And the other issue is that Parliament has been taken to court because of this. Whereas there are people who actually caused the demise of some of these companies like Mumia Sugar and others. There are billionaires out there and they are scot-free. But the ordinary factory in Ruaraka, that is actually the livelihood of many Kenyans, has actually been put into an economic situation that is actually embarrassing. Honorable Speaker, as pointed out in the report, it is imperative that we save some of these companies from this unnecessary harassment, which is not justified. Honorable Speaker, it is also important to note that at all times, the Sugar Directorate, having failed to give evidence as to what this company was actually accused of, it also failed to implement the resolution of Parliament. And it only did that after they were summoned by the Committee on Implementation. So, Honorable Speaker, they also confirmed that Africa has been complying with all the necessary legislation and regulations that govern the kind of activities, and that there was no reason for the Sugar Board to have done what they did. So, in essence, Honorable Speaker, the Ministry and the Sugar Directorate cleared this company of any malpractices or any wrong activities or wrongful activities that they were accused of. So, Honorable Speaker, because I would like to give other members a chance, it should also be noted by the members that no country and no factory in Kenya or no industry in Kenya is able to actually produce industrial sugar. And this is only done through importation. And when these companies import industrial sugar, it is actually accounted from the place of origin up to the time of landing in Kenya. So there is no way that anybody can actually divert this sugar to other places or for other means. Honorable Speaker, all this having been confirmed by the necessary ministry and activities, it never was involved in any other activity that was questionable. Honorable Speaker, it was therefore the duty of the committee to ensure that justice is done. Honorable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends as follows: that the House reconsiders its resolution made on 24th February 2016, which was arrived at following information contained in recommendation 108, page 50 of the report by the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives on the crisis facing the sugar industry in Kenya. B, that the House expunges the name Canafric Industries Limited from resolution of 24th February 2016 as contained in recommendation 108, page 50 of the report by the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives in the crisis facing the sugar industry in Kenya. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the motion and request Honorable Osoti, who is my deputy in that committee, to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
So, Honorable Osoti.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as explained by the chair of the committee, our committee, the Committee of Implementation, is a very, very, very important committee because it is a committee of last resort. That after all committees have given their reports, after this House has made a decision, it is a committee that is supposed to follow up on the implementation of the House resolution after 60 days. And Mr. Speaker, this committee has been looking at the report by the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives on the crisis facing the sugar industry in Kenya. The report that was adopted by this House on 24th February 2016. In the middle of our consideration of this report, Mr. Speaker, you issued a directive that we look at the petition that was brought to this House by Canafric Industries on the issue of them not having been heard when this report was being developed. And Mr. Speaker, you issued a ruling that the Committee of Implementation gives a chance to the Canafric Industries Limited to reconsider their case on the basis that the rules of natural justice were not followed when the Committee of Agriculture was processing the report. And Mr. Speaker, we sat down as a committee and confirmed that indeed there were omissions by the Agricultural Committee. The first omission being that Kenafric Industries sought to be heard, but the committee in its own wisdom refused to grant them that permission to be heard. And Mr. Speaker, this goes against our laws, the law of fair administrative justice, our own constitution, which clearly stipulates that one has to be heard before a judgment is made. Mr. Speaker, the issue of Kenafric Industries was brought by the then Kenya Sugar Board, which has now changed to Kenya Sugar Directorate, which indicated that one of the companies that is repackaging sugar is Kenafric Industries. But the omission was that the Kenya Sugar Directorate did not provide documents to support their case. The committee did not also attach relevant documents to support their case. So there was a loophole in the report, which Kenafric Industries brought a petition that they needed to be heard. And Mr. Speaker, your direction to the Committee of Implementation was very basic, that we receive submissions from Kenafric, but we don't open a fresh inquiry. Mr. Speaker, we did exactly that, but to confirm the issues that were raised by Kenafric Industries, in our own wisdom, we invited the Kenya Sugar Directorate and Ministry of Agriculture. And when they appeared before us, the Kenya Sugar Directorate clearly told us that they were unable to provide any evidence to implicate Kenafric Industries. The same was said by the Ministry of Agriculture, who appeared before us. Mr. Speaker, indeed, in the report that was adopted by this House, there was no supporting evidence apart from the minutes that where Kenya Sugar Board appeared and implicated this company called Kenafric. Mr. Speaker, we also found out that there are two levels of inspections that are done before an import license is granted. One is done by the Kenya Sugar Directorate. The other one is done by a Council of Ministers for East Africa, which was done. In these two reports, there is no evidence that this company was involved in illicit importation of sugar, which they were then repackaging. But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, is that this must be a lesson to our committees. Please do a thorough job. You give the Committee of Implementation a lot of work, hard work to do. If your recommendations are not supported by evidence attached on the report. Mr. Speaker, we also notice that some of the recommendations that are given out in various reports are not implementable because of the style in which they are written. Some recommendations are vague in nature, so it becomes very difficult to implement. So I think at some point, Mr. Speaker, this House, we must come up with some standards on issues of reports. We must ensure that all reports has relevant evidence. The other issue that we notice, Mr. Speaker, is that Kenya Sugar Directorate did not implement the report as required. They waited until the Committee of Implementation wrote to them asking for the implementation status. That is when they started taking action. And they delayed the issuance of the license to this company. Mr. Speaker, actually our intervention is what triggered this matter. So what we are saying is that there was one, the issue of not being heard, two, the issue of not following the law, and number three, Mr. Speaker, there was no corresponding evidence attached on the report, Cage Industrial Sugar. Because the submission we received from Ministry of Agriculture...
What's your point of order, Honorable Asheli?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did not have any intention of interjecting the submissions as per the seconder, but the Committee of Implementation is overstepping their roles by then becoming a supervisor of committees. Mr. Speaker, reports are written by the office, by clerks, attached to various committees, of course, to be counter-checked by members. But for the committee, for the committee, and especially Honorable Osoti, who is seconding, to claim that many committees' reports are written wrongly, Mr. Speaker, I want to request that Honorable Osoti withdraw statement and ask whether Mr. Osoti is in order to claim that committees are writing their report wrongly. And the issue of the company they are currently citing, I have had a problem. I don't know how it reached them, whether it was through a petition or whether the owner of that company applied to them to complain whether the Committee of Agriculture then of 2016 report had an issue with that company. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask whether the Committee of Implementation are in order to audit the works of other committees which have already set a report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I think in this specific case, you know, for those of us who always keep track of issues, you recall that this is a matter which I specifically referred to the Committee on Implementation upon a complaint that was written, addressed to the House, drawing the attention of the House to a purported miscarriage of justice. In that complaint, it was clearly indicated that this particular organization had applied. It was mentioned adversely, and I've been listening to what both the mover and the seconder are saying. There was one of the organizations dealing with sugar board or whatever. When they appeared before the Agriculture Committee, mentioned that organization adversely. Upon being mentioned, the attention being drawn to the fact of their being mentioned adversely, they wrote to the committee seeking to appear, to give evidence. The committee, the record shows, and you can go to the report, the record shows the committee sat, looked at the request by this organization to appear, and they said, we have no time. The report, we are very busy. The report is needed. But notwithstanding that, the committee proceeded to go and recommend that this particular company be punished. Having refused them the opportunity to come and testify, give their version of the story, then surely condemning a person unhurt. This is the issue that we said the Committee on Implementation, since the matter could not be referred back to the Committee on Agriculture, it is the Committee on Implementation which now had to go and check on these facts and bring a report. So I am satisfied myself that the committee has actually applied itself to the issue that I referred to them. And it was actually, this matter was time-bound. Because where people complain that, look, you have condemned us, we tried to approach you to give us an opportunity, and the approach was not in the streets, it was in writing. But the committee again goes and even makes a record that, yes, we have received this letter from these people trying to say they want to appear before us. We have no time. That we have to write a report, the report is urgently required. Then, of course, if you take that path, you must not express yourself one way or the other, especially to make an adverse finding on a person without giving them the chance to be heard. In fairness, I do know, I appreciate that matters sugar sometimes get very, very convoluted, but I think the committee is actually addressing the issue. And we just wanted to know whether they confirmed that indeed this is what happened. So I think the Honorable Authority is in order to proceed in making his presentation. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to finalize, I think the gist of this matter is that this company was not heard and is against the law of fair administrative justice. It is against the Constitution. On that basis, Mr. Speaker, we recommended that, one, that the House reconsiders its resolution made on 24th February 2016, which was arrived at following information contained.
Facing the sugar industry in Kenya, as adopted by the House on 24th February 2016, and one, reconsiders its resolution made on the 24th of February 2016, which was arrived at following inaccurate information contained in recommendation 108, page 50 of the same report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives, and two, resolves to expunge the name Kenafric Industries Limited from its resolution of 24th of February 2016 as contained in the recommendation 108, page 50 of the same report. I say the Leader of Majority, you want to contribute?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support this matter or this motion from the member for Narok North, the chair of Committee on Implementation. And Mr. Speaker, as you said, in the report of the 18th February 2016, the Committee of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries noted that Kenya Sugar Board has identified, it's in their report, Honorable Washiali was a member of that committee. They have identified in their report that Kenafric Sugar Industries as one of the manufacturers that repackaged, imported in its meeting held on the 6th of March 2015, this said committee, the Committee on Agriculture, failed to hear the company despite their attorney or their advocate writing to this committee. So, Mr. Speaker, all that you have said is it's in record, it's in the report, and it's on the Hansard. And indeed, that Committee of Agriculture resolved that the company does seek redress after the finalization of the report. As a result, Mr. Speaker, Kenafric Industries Limited was adversely affected by the decision of the Committee on Agriculture in that its importation license have not been renewed then. This is a serious matter, Mr. Speaker, and I'm contributing to this matter just by reading the report of the Implementation Committee and the report of the Agriculture and Livestock Committee. And Mr. Speaker, having lost their chance of renewal for their license for 2017-2018, the Speaker found it necessary to accord or to afford Kenafric Industries a chance to present their case for consideration by the House in order to offer the House an opportunity to remedy a procedural oversight. Speaker, in good language, we can call it procedural oversight. But Mr. Speaker, from where I sit, that was impunity. That was impunity, Mr. Speaker. Parliament cannot deny as a house that passed a law called fair administrative justice, cannot deny a citizen, a corporate or individual, a chance to be heard. And the Speaker, for me to go back, I don't want to go back, but now I'm going back to the sugar with the mercury. You remember there was a former minister called Bett, the current ambassador in India. He was not given a fair hearing by both the joint committees. And he was indicted in the recommendation of that joint committee. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we are learning a lot from this, what we are doing today. That as a house, whether we are dealing with a petition, whether we are dealing with a question, whether we are dealing with a bill on matters that concerns the people of Kenya, within the reading of Article 95, we must accord each and every citizen, either individual or corporate, a fair hearing. And that's why this matter has come back. And the Speaker, we really want to thank you, because you have not only redeemed that committee, you have also redeemed the image of the 12th Parliament. So the Speaker felt it necessary to accord or afford Kenafric Industries a chance to present its case for consideration by the House, to offer the House an opportunity to redeem that procedural or impunity oversight by the committee. The Speaker directed the committee submit its report to the House within 30 days. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the House cannot be seen to be establishing a precedent of or condoning or condemning of persons without affording them an opportunity to be heard. Speaker, why am I contributing? Because I really felt this is a very important matter. It has never happened. In fact, it has never happened in my life as a member of Parliament, where a citizen, either corporate or individual, complains to the implementation committee, and a report that was adopted by the House is amended. I think this is a very, very good step we have taken. So that, Honorable Kenta, the chair, you need to look at the previous reports. And I'm sure I want to ask Kenyans who felt in one way or the other, they were indicted in a report of Parliament. And reports of Parliament becomes records of the House for years to come. So, Speaker, if you are, for example, if you are a public servant and a recommendation that you cannot hold a public office is adopted by this House, that will live with you until you die. So, Mr. Speaker, or I think it was in the Public Accounts Committee, where when the Public Accounts Committee was dealing with the matter on the accounts on the judiciary, the former Chief Justice, William Mutunga, in writing refused to appear. Yes, he refused to appear before the committee. So if somebody writes and refuses to appear before a committee, then the committee is at liberty to do any indictment on that individual. But here we have, it's the contrary. We have a company, an entity that says, I want to be heard through its advocate, and then the committee did not agree. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very, very important. Honorable Junet and myself, we have some other matters which are coming. So he really wants me to conclude, and I think I will conclude, because we had an agreement earlier that this report is adopted, and Kenafric, whose member of Parliament is Honorable TJ Kajuang. And he does not represent them because of any other interest. He told me they employ over 10,000 people who are the citizens of his constituency. And I think in future, they should establish their next factory in Garissa Township if they want to see proper representation in the House. So please tell Kenafric that their next factory should be in Garissa, so that I join forces with Honorable TJ in defending their rights on the floor of the House. I beg to support.
Now that you have mentioned the Honorable Member for Waraka, I will just hear what they say from the horse's mouth.
Much obliged, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, allow me to declare my interest in this matter, that I'm the member for Ruaraka, in which constituency hosts Kenafric Industries Limited, that employs more than 15,000 people from the low neighborhood. And Mr. Speaker, sir, if these people were to close shop, I would have more than 15,000 or so mouths looking for me to be able to feed. This is an interest which is not monetary, but an interest which brings me to the House. Mr. Speaker, sir, you see, this chocolate business is a very important subject. It made me differ with my party leader just last week, just because of this chocolate issue. Because you see, every member of parliament, his chocolate is in the Mwananchi who votes for him. And anytime you step on my chocolate, Mr. Speaker, sir, you know I will speak all the English until now I'll speak vernacular. And this is what happened when I was in the chamber. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, first of all, allow me to congratulate you, because you not only, as it is, would want to condemn people unheard, mob justice and lynch people the way nowadays I hear in the newspaper every day. People are condemned and even hanged, and even judgment passed on the streets. Even people whose hearing, they are still asking for bond, but they have already been hanged and jailed. If this noble House will also continue like they do in the streets, then we have no business being members of this Honorable Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to congratulate the Committee of Implementation. These are wise people. I'm proud that they come from this side of the House where I am. You know, this side of the House produces some wonderful people. You see it in PSC every day. You see it in PIC every day. And reports are generated here before the House. I think majority party must be very jealous of the kind of steam power which comes from this side of the House that I am, Mr. Speaker. A committee on implementation was generally considered in 11th Parliament as a dead committee until my learned friend, my senior in fact, came and resurrected this committee. And I want to tell him to urge on. There will be a lot of reports that we have passed in this House which need to be relooked at. People have been condemned, or others have been, there have been decisions of this House to prosecute people. And they are still everywhere in very high public offices walking around as though everything is all right. So let us now be what we are. This is the teeth with which National Assembly is able to bite. Because other than that, and other than Article 125, there is no other opportunity by which this House is able to bite. And so I urge my friend that this is the way to go. Coming to what we have now, you see, the fact that we passed an adverse finding against Kenafric, their licenses were withdrawn. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, you resuscitated them by ordering a suspension. I mean, the abatement of the suspension of their licenses. You can see how many people out there who would have suffered just because of some act of negligence or commission by this House. And so, because of the orderly consideration that you made, these people are now able to trade. They are now able to manufacture that which they bear. Now, these are not importers, and I want my friend, the Majority Chief Whip, just allow me to state this, because you need to understand that Kenafric are not importers of sugar. These people don't deal in any way with the table sugar. That sugar that rests on the plate, they have nothing to do with it. These people are manufacturers of confectionery, and so they deal with industrial sugar, and which is rebated and which is rationed. They add value to it by making it in a way that it can now be confectionery. Their only rivals are importers of chocolate. And so we want to be able to, we want to be able to empower these people. These are local manufacturers who are adding value and who are bringing development and raising up the strength of our GDP. These are the people to be supported. So, Mr. Whip, I know when we call sugar, you react the way I react when we call confectionery. If we say sugar, you always react the way I react when I hear chocolate. It is because we are representing the people who brought us here. But you need to listen that these people have nothing to do with that table sugar. These are industrialists, only employing Kenyans so that we are able to serve East Africans as we serve the world. And so, without adding much, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to congratulate you for hearing my people, the Ruaraka people, and for the implementers, the implementation committee, for hearing us and giving us what we think is justice. And so I support that recommendation 1, first of all, reconsidering the decision. I think it also teaches us something, that this House has powers to reconsider its decisions. We resolve things, but we also have powers to reconsider ourselves when we think we may have been wrong or when we acted against the law or something like that. So this should make our members be bolstered that they can, at some point, by way of petition or a motion, well coached, bring motions here so that we can recall ourselves and reconsider ourselves. And having done that, we then expunge those unfortunate remarks from the record. With those, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to support. Thank you so much.
I can see the member for Mawotio is keen on contributing to this.
Honorable Speaker, being a member of this committee, I'd like first of all to correct the notion that the members on the other side are necessarily the best. We are also on this side, and we belong to the majority party, and we also contribute on the other side. I rise, Honorable Speaker, to support this particular motion. We looked at the facts. First of all, I'd like to take also this opportunity to thank you for giving Can-Africa an opportunity to be heard. It's very crucial. It's a very important decision you made, which will guide this country for many years to come. That whenever a committee's report comes in, it should be weighed, and if there is a particular party or a particular person feels aggrieved, they are given an opportunity to be heard. We had this particular company, Can-Africa, they came in front of us. We looked at the facts. In fact, it was so compelling that this is a very big company based in your constituency, Juang. They employ over 2,500 people. They produce so many different types of products. Honorable Speaker, they brought those products in front of us and are exported across the East African countries. And when we condemn a particular company of that size, it means we are actually creating more of an employment. We are actually creating unemployment in the country. We are also reducing the respect those companies get across the border. We also learned one thing which is very important, because I was also a member of the Sugar Committee, which was earlier never succeeded in this floor. We discovered that there is no industrial sugar which is being processed in this country. We were told earlier Kibos, a factory in Kibos, Honorable Speaker, processes industrial sugar. But when we probed this particular company which uses white sugar or industrial sugar, they say they actually import most of the sugar which they use for confetti, biscuits, and others. And therefore, when we examined the facts, we actually gave them an opportunity to explain, and they even said during the time the report was being prepared, they were not actually invited to represent their side of the story. We even called AFA. We called AFA, which is now the successor of the Sugar Board, to come and explain where this thing came about. How come they brought the goals in? When you look at the report, the sugar report, which was done by the Committee of Agriculture, they are actually saying it is AFA who made the suggestion that these people were actually engaging in repackaging industrial sugar as stable sugar. But we discovered that even them, the AFA, could not produce any evidence. And therefore, we realized that there could have been a lot of injustice done to this particular company if we never actually reconsidered it and looked at the case afresh. And therefore, when we looked at what they do, They do a lot of work. We also realize that industrial sugar, if you convert it into table sugar, is so expensive. It makes no sense. Therefore, it looks like the Committee of Agriculture really never looked at it critically. They never actually understood some of the allocations which was being made by AFA. AFA is the source of the allocation. We also feel AFA never carried out the resolutions of this House. They had recommended these 5 companies to be actually barred from actually engaging in importation of sugar. But actually, they never actually did that, because during the time when the recent importation of sugar, some of those companies actually went ahead and participated in importing sugar, like Hydra and others. So we feel that sometimes some of the resolutions passed by this House was not carried to the letter by some of the agencies of the government. But in this particular case, it was later when Kenafric was denied a license. They never renewed the license to continue producing or using, importing industrial sugar and using it for production. Therefore, I actually rise to say, I beg to support this particular motion, the way it's been worded, that we reconsider it, and actually we expunge the area, the name of Kenafric Industries Limited from the report which was submitted earlier. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, I can see there's a desire for me to put the question. But of course, honorable members, this is just to, it's seeking to correct. Member for Nambale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Well, I appreciate the concerns of the Committee on Implementation and the corrective action they have taken, because they didn't give a fair hearing to a corporate Kenyan. I'm concerned about the intensity of the defense. I think in the process of defending that action, I have a feeling that they're going overboard a bit. I think the only valid position I can see is that they were accused without a fair hearing, and if they had had their hearing, they would have had a chance to evaluate that hearing in the context of the evidence. If you go beyond that, and then begin to do what now begins to appear like a sanitization, I think that bothers me. The principle behind it bothers me. So I think we should just stick with the fact that we have made a correction, irrespective of an oversight or an impunitive oversight, as the leader of majority said, but I don't think we should go beyond in the extent to which we are giving the defense of the company. The number of employees, the amount of taxes they pay, would have no bearing if in any way they had in fact been guilty of what they're accused of, if evidence had been adduced, for example. So I think we should just stick with the technicalities that have been corrected, and I was sound enough to ask the House to recall that recommendation, but I don't think we should go much beyond that in respect of defending this particular company. That's my concern, as it goes down to the annals of history. If you look at it, you might find that in the absence of what you all know already, that we do not know, that you were the committee, that it might have gone beyond the pale, as they say, in terms of the intensity and the excitement I can see around that defense. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Member for Mumi Assist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to request for your intelligence, Mr. Speaker, because you have already given a direction as far as this report is concerned. But, Mr. Speaker, personally, as a member of this House, knowing that a report of any committee adopted by the whole House is no longer a report of that particular committee, but a report of this House. Mr. Speaker, a wrong and a wrong does not make a right. And, Mr. Speaker, it may be true that Kenafric was not asked to come and meet the Committee of Agriculture. But also, Mr. Speaker, in the report of implementation committee, they have not given the Committee of Agriculture an opportunity to come and defend the report as it were, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my minority leader is a very knowledgeable person. I wouldn't wish that I reacted on what he's saying. But I wanted to say, Mr. Speaker, as a former member of the Committee of Agriculture, that it may not be on record, but as, and I'm wishing that Honorable Mbuki was still with us, because then he was the vice chair of the Committee of Agriculture. And personally, three members of the Committee of Agriculture visited the warehouses of Kenafric in Mombasa. And Mr. Speaker, whatever that would have made the Committee of Agriculture then to make the recommendation that they have made was based on the visit that we had in the warehouses of Kenafric, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record. I want to be on record, and before, Mr. Speaker, they come up with a point of order.
Honorable Asheli, I think it will be unfair for you to begin giving evidence, because this particular matter was refined on the basis of the record of the report. That paragraph 108. The petition was very clear, and indeed the record, our own legal department went through the record and said, indeed, there appears to have been an error on the face of record. I'm sure you can, some other members can tell you. It showed that they applied to be heard by the committee. The committee has not indicated that we are not going to hear them because we have already visited and they are go down. The committee said, we have no time. We will proceed because the report is needed urgently. And you can just look at that report. It's a matter, as you know very well, before a matter like this one can come like this, our own department, legal department, has had to look through and say, please, so give the Committee on Implementation an opportunity to go and look, because we have no other mechanism. But correcting an error on the face of a record is an accepted process, even in the judiciary. Indeed, even a judge can correct an error on the face of the record if certain matters are brought to his attention that were not brought to, or that were not before him. In this case, the House, the attention of the House was never drawn to the fact that actually they are recommending or condemning somebody who had sought audience but was denied audience. I think this is the underlying reason by the Committee on Implementation, that on the basis of this error,
defending our companies from being closed, he stands up here, Mr. Speaker, to say that they go ahead and be closed. Mr. Speaker, Kenafric is the only company in this country, East and Central, who sells sweets. Mr. Speaker, we must be very honest to ourselves. When I see a whole member, Mr. Speaker, who does not sit in the constituency of Mr. Kajwang and does not know the pain of how many people are going to lose a job because of a recommendation by a committee of this House. Mr. Speaker, when I stand here and I look at Honorable Olekenta, I feel he's a man who respects God first, because he went ahead and in fact, looked into the issues, the thorny issues, Mr. Speaker. Today, if you close a company with the magnitude of investment of Kenafric, Mr. Speaker, what are you doing to the economy of this country? We are struggling with our budget, Mr. Speaker. Yet, we want to close this company by denying them a license. Mr. Speaker, if you allow me to take you back, when I came in here, Mr. Speaker, on the same issue of committees denying people to hear them, Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Environment, I wrote to them, Mr. Speaker, requesting them to invite me and speak about our company, Land and Distillers, who sits in Athi River, Mavoko, my constituency, Mr. Speaker. The oldest company, which was founded in 1983, has been employing 1,500 people during the day and 1,500 during the night. Mr. Speaker, and I see a recommendation, someone telling them, you must close within 6 months if you have not implemented air pollution worth 2.1 billion, Mr. Speaker. What are we telling them? That is why, Mr. Speaker, as I stand here, I know the Committee of Implementation is the only committee that is going to redeem that company. Mr. Speaker, I'm not undermining, I don't underestimate the capacity of these committees. Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of Parliament. And first and foremost, we must know that we represent people who elected us here to come and champion for their interests. Mr. Speaker, when I speak about Land and Distillers, Mr. Speaker, I speak with passion because since 1983, Mr. Speaker, their corporate social responsibility is unmatched. And Mr. Speaker, if we are closing a company because of a building, because of a Chinese who has come to this country to build flats, Mr. Speaker, it is a question of first in, last out. Who founded the industry? Is it the flats or the industry? Mr. Speaker, if I was given a chance, I would have told this committee that this gentleman came 2016 and we've been with this committee for over 30 years. Mr. Speaker, therefore, when we are here and someone doubts the works of the Committee of Implementation, Mr. Speaker, I feel very offended. And in fact, Mr. Washiali, you are only a friend of Committee of Agriculture when you are there. And you are in the same committee that is attempting to close Land and Distillers. I want to tell you how you feel.
Now,
how you feel.
Now, this report is not about Land and Distillers.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
No.
Mr. Speaker.
Maybe you are discussing a different report.
Kenafric, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know the emotion which carries. Mr. Speaker, my buffer, my stock is the people I represent. And Mr. Speaker, once they are offended, once they are hurt, Mr. Speaker, I know you know. You are a respected man in this country. You've been a member of Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, when we stand here, we are not joking. We are not joking. This country needs taxes, Mr. Speaker. This country needs people to be employed, Mr. Speaker. We cannot afford you to come and do recommendations, committee reports that are encouraging people to close industries. Yet, we are going out spending taxpayers' money to market Kenya. Mr. Speaker, it is time. It is time. These chairmen of these committees knew that every Kenyan has a right to be heard. And that's why I'm supporting, the Committee of Implementation. Go ahead, look into all the reports, particularly that one by the Committee of Environment. Mr. Speaker, going forward, there is a dossier which I will table in front of this House, Mr. Speaker, to show that some people are not allowed to come and give their evidence because of hidden personal agendas. Mr. Speaker, I know in very many times we've attempted to protect the integrity of this House. But Speaker, if we don't adhere to the rules and regulations of this House and the activities and the mandate of this committee, we'll be going out of it. And Mr. Speaker, Kenyans will judge us wrongly. I want to tell this House that I'm a very honest person, that indeed, Mr. Kent and the committee, we recommend you, we commend you, go on, speak out. In fact, I will encourage the company to write a petition so that you can look into it, so that I feel the way the Honorable Kajwang is feeling for his people. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this chance.
Now, honourable members, let's just, even when we want to look at the mandate of the committees, even if you look at that standing order number 209, inter alia, the functions of the Committee on Implementation include looking at adopted resolutions, including reports of other committees which have been adopted, find out whether they are if they are to be implemented, how are they being implemented? Are they capable of implementation? And if they are not capable of implementation, what are the bottlenecks? And then report to the House. So you cannot begin questioning that mandate. That mandate is clear. Look at 209 subsection 2, indeed, to avoid, so that let us not try to say that the committee is not, it is supposed, that is in fact is what they are supposed to do.
Down through the entire debate, and I can confirm that they have been given 6 months to come with mitigation measures to reduce the pollution that they are currently emitting in that environment. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's important we know that in as much as we are committed to the Big Four agenda, and for sure we are all very committed to it, we must make sure we also save the environment at the same time, Mr. Speaker. So the honorable member, the best thing he can do is to go to that factory that belongs to his constituency and tell them, please, if you want to continue working here, the Parliament has given you 6 months to go and do what you must do to save the environment. Otherwise, they are closed. And Mr. Speaker, they were actually given a fair hearing. The committee even visited the company very early in the morning, Mr.
Now,
Speaker.
can we go to this report now?
So, Mr. Speaker, I was just giving that because I think I know he's very unhappy because things didn't go his way, but it is important that we put the records of this House straight, Mr. Speaker. But let me also say this, that I support this report of the Implementation Committee because, again, if we come up with certain recommendations that are not practically possible, then we also must, as a House, have a leeway to come back and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong, and correct it, so that we also not putting punitive measures on companies and factories that are doing the right thing, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy that we have that recourse. I know my boss here is not happy for obvious reasons. Anything sugar touches him very closely at heart. And it is good that he stays true to his constituents, but I would like him to also reconsider some of the decisions he makes, because not everything sugar is bad for your people. So let us also give them a chance. I think they need to come to the committee and be heard. This committee, this Parliament must always give fair hearing to anybody that is mentioned in any petition or in any question, so that we are seen to be a just House of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, I beg to support.
No, honourable members, you know there's something that is going to happen at 5:30. So we really need to, and for, the Honourable T.J. Kajwang in contributing, first of all, he began by declaring his interests. Now, without declaring any interest, I now nominate the member for Luanda to contribute. I don't have to declare what interest I may have.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak to this. I think, first of all, I want to congratulate the Committee on Implementation for doing what it has done. And I would take this further to say that, seeing that this is more or less the first time that this is happening in the proceedings of this House, I think as the committee on sitting on the committee that reviews our rules and our procedures, I think I will take it up later on in the year when we sit, so that we review the rules to encompass this, to allow the House to sometimes revisit its decisions that may be injurious to people in circumstances such as this. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is true that one of the rules of natural justice, and this goes even beyond the Constitution, is the right to be heard, is the right to be given an opportunity before a decision that affects you is made. And that we cannot even legislate on. It is a condition of the human dignity itself. It is sacred, as my brother Kaluma says. The other one is that one may not sit in a cause that is his own. to be a judge in your own cause. Those are the two rules of natural justice. And if this House, as it were, was to break this rule, then, Mr. Speaker, would have no business calling ourselves as a House of the people. So it is good that we have done what we've done, and I am glad that I am part of this decision, and I'm proud of my Speaker for making this decision. Going forward, I would urge the committees of the House to be alive to these rules, that we must allow people who are affected or who are mentioned in any proceedings that we undertake. Give them an opportunity. It is only fair. It is only just. It is good in the eyes of the people of Kenya who have given us.
2016, which was arrived at following inaccurate information contained in the recommendation 108, page 50 of the same report of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives, and 2, resolves to expunge the name Kenafric Industries Limited from the resolution of the 24th February 2016 as contained in the recommendation 108, page 50 of the same report. Will as many as that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Next. Next order.
Order number 11, appointment of members to various committees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I request to move this motion in an amended form subject to an amended form as per Standing Order 48, and mainly in Roman 1 and Roman 4, and that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 175 and further to the resolution of the House December 14, 2017, on the appointment of members to respective committees, this House further approves the following additional appointments to committees specified under. And in Roman 1, the Honorable Gideon Conchela MP to be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperative to replace Honorable Kathuri Murungi. And in Roman 4, the Honorable Charles Kamuren MP appointed to the Departmental Committee on Sports, Tourism and Culture, and that of Broadcasting and Library, in line to take, respectively, to take up the slots of the majority party, and the rest as per the order paper. Mr. Speaker, the procedure in coming to this matter was followed. And in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 173.1, the Committee on Selection in consultation with the parliamentary parties is mandated to nominate members to serve in various committees. The changes to committee membership, Mr. Speaker, was adopted by the Committee on Selection on August 30th, 2018. Thereafter, the list went through the House Business Committee last Tuesday before scheduling it on today's order paper. Indeed, the process was followed prior to scheduling of the motion as required by the National Assembly, standing orders, and the general parliamentary practice. And, Mr. Speaker, this motion has been occasioned by the need, 1, to harmonize committees membership to ensure that all members are represented in committees, and more important, there are 4 members, Mr. Speaker, who since the beginning didn't have a committee for various reasons. Honorable Nyenze, member for Kitui West, the Honorable member for Baringo North, Baringo South, following the death of our sister, Grace Kipchoim. Honorable member for Mombasa County, Aisha Mohammed, and of course, Honorable member for Kilgoris. Those 4 members, Mr. Speaker, have no committees. So, Mr. Speaker, and this is a function of the parliamentary parties. If you read Standing Order 173, 174, 175, and 176. And I want to make it very, very clear, Mr. Speaker, it is only in Standing Order 176 where the parliamentary whips have the powers to de-whip. So we have not de-whipped anybody. If we want to de-whip members, the whips want to de-whip members, then they must follow the procedure stipulated in the revised Standing Order 176, where fair due process is given, where the Speaker is given a period, where the member is given an opportunity. So let me make it very clear. What we have only done is we harmonized. The leadership has harmonized. And Mr. Speaker, I think I want to go on record. This morning I was served. I was not served, I was given an order from the political parties tribunal that wants to direct the majority and the minority on how we place members. And Mr. Speaker, let me send a warning. Let me send a warning to the men and women who run the political parties tribunal that you messed the political parties nomination. You made sure that Honorable Koyo stayed at the Supreme Court until one day to the election. We will not allow you to run the legislature. We will not allow you. And Mr. Speaker, even in that order, it's talking about opposition. There is no opposition. There is minority and there is majority. But Mr. Speaker, the Secretary General of ANC, the purported Secretary General of ANC, the Honorable Barak Muluka, which Mr. Speaker, I know Honorable Oyotsi wants to claim that seat. They are in court. Speaker, they are in court. But I said Barak Muluka, before Mr. Speaker, he goes to political parties tribunal to run the legislature, he must first go and win a seat as an MCA in Butere. And a member for Butere is not here. I'm not seeing him, Honorable Tindi Mwale. So, Mr. Speaker, and the Honorable Secretary General purported Secretary General of ANC must realize that in the legislature, where there is minority and majority, there is also what we call parliamentary parties. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to be informed. Because I don't want to be informed, Mr. Speaker. Continue. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you are not a parliamentary party, and you coalesce around another parliamentary party, it must be, you must have discipline and you must have the decency to live with that party. And you must appreciate that that party, which is a parliamentary party, has gone out of its way to accommodate you. And Mr. Speaker, if somebody accommodates you in his house, you cannot choose where to sleep. You don't choose where to sleep. You cannot come and say, you tell ODM, as a parliamentary party, you want to sleep on the bed of Baba. No. So, Mr. Speaker, and I really want you, Mr. Speaker, to protect the legislature. Because I asked, when I was served, I asked if parliamentary leadership can be injected by the political parties tribunal, what about tomorrow a report or a legislation going on, even the budget? The same parliamentary political parties tribunal can say you cannot discuss that. And Mr. Speaker, very soon we are going to bring and amend the Political Parties Act. We have the powers. The men and women who run the Political Parties Tribunal, we will deal with you by amending the Political Parties Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want to urge members here, there is nothing. It happens in the 10th Parliament, in the 11th Parliament. We will reconsider. We will harmonize. If you are in one committee, you are in, just like in the other committee. You must tell us why you want to stick in PIC. What is in PIC? We must know. And Mr. Speaker, we must know what goes on in Public Investment Committee. Because there are people who want to kill us. They are saying, you touch me, I am in PIC. It's like you have taken him on a petition case to court. So Honorable Sharif Nasir must tell us what is in PIC. We must be told what is in Public Accounts Committee. So Speaker, the privileged committee that you chair must do a lifestyle audit. Mr. Speaker, lifestyle audit on people who insist they must be in PIC. Even after what happened, the finance bill. Mr. Speaker, there are people who are saying this list came because of the finance bill. Mr. Speaker, I have said it. Speaker, if it was about the whipping, the first victim should have been the choir master, the honorable member for Ruaraka. But Mr. Speaker, this matter was dealt with by the selection committee before, by August 30th. And Mr. Speaker, we are good leaders. Even if you misbehave, even if you go against the party lines, we are also colleagues. We will not. And in fact, the Honorable Kaluma now is a member of the National Security Committee. Despite him being a contestant for the gubernatorial seat with Honorable Bunge, of which he has to face him, because the opinion polls in Homa Bay, he is trailing. Honorable Kaluma is trailing. But since he came to court to represent the family of our good family, the Sharon's family, then his opinion polls has come up. Now he's doing about 15%. So, Mr. Speaker, I want you to protect Parliament. Please protect Parliament from those who want to serve us on letters and summons from the political parties tribunal. The legislature is independent. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and ask, because we have a few minutes, ask the leader of minority to second, and so that our new members, Honorable Nyenze, Honorable Aisha, Honorable Kamuren, and Honorable Gideon Conchela, Honorable Kajuang, can join and be active in the various committees we have taken in. I beg to move and ask Honorable Mbandi to second.
Thank you. The member who is shouting you, that you are out of order. You can't stand there and start pointing at another member on the other side. So please, try to try to learn the standing orders. Yeah, please proceed, Honorable Mbandi.
Thank you on this motion, and I want to start by saying that today is a very happy day for me, and especially if this House will pass this motion. Why? Because I've had issues with some members for a very long time, who literally, 2 members from my coalition, who for months, in fact one of them for over a year, have not had a committee. We inadvertently left the women rep for Mombasa County, who does not have a committee. And she has been coming to my office almost literally every week. And Mr. Speaker, further, the Honorable Edith Nyenze has also not been having...
Honourable members, there is nothing out of order. There is nothing out of order. If you persist, you will...
Mr. Speaker, we can't hear. Someone is standing here and I'm on my feet. I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, Honorable Bunge.
Mr. Speaker.
Members must know how to... Now,
Mr.
may I
Speaker,
know all these members who have put their requests here? Honorable Junaid, is this about the point of order?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker.
Which point of
Speaker,
order?
the standing orders are very clear. That when a member is on his feet and you have given him time to speak, another member cannot be on his feet, Mr. Speaker. This is gross misconduct and disorderly, Mr. Speaker.
Absolutely.
Mr. Speaker, you know, when you come new and you want to start with bad habit, you may end up with bad habit for years. So, Mr. Speaker, I would urge that some of these MPs, like Honorable Tindi Mwane, learn some good habits, that there is debate in this House. You'll get your opportunity. But, Mr. Speaker, what I was saying is that there are some members of Parliament who have not had committees, like the Honorable Edith Nyenze from my side and Honorable MP for Mombasa County. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to also add that the media misreported that we have recommended removal of members from committees. Far from it, Mr. Speaker. And actually the media attributed that to an event that took place on 26th, I think, of last month. Mr. Speaker, this motion, the names were presented to the leader of majority as the chair of the selection committee way before, a few days before we went on our recess. And Mr. Speaker, it was informed by changes that we thought would make these committees functioning better. And also to be fair to all members. Mr. Speaker, if it was a matter of punishment, as the Honorable Leader of Majority said, TJ Kajwang would have been de-whipped from all the committees because he actually misbehaved a lot on that day of 26th by disobeying not only the party position, but the leader of that party in the House. But, Mr. Speaker, you will see from this motion that Honorable TJ Kajwang is one of the beneficiaries of these changes. Why? Because the Honorable TJ Kajwang, despite his experience and the capacity and his commitment to parliamentary duty, and I doubt whether anyone would fault that, he simply was in one committee on Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee, which rarely sits. So, Mr. Speaker, it just makes sense that we reorganize committees to accommodate some of these members. Honorable TJ Kajwang, Honorable Kaluma, and others. But, Mr. Speaker, I've had one of my members, Honorable Tindi Mwane, complain a lot. I remember when he was given the PIC committee, we had a lot of argument, a long argument with him, because I asked him, how do we put you in Transport Committee and also put you in PIC, and other members don't even have any committee? And, Mr. Speaker, he had even to call his party leader, who was out of the country. And we all know that his party leader at that time, I didn't want to give him too much stress, Mr. Speaker, because he was in Germany for a very important assignment. So what I did, because he was troubling his party leader so much, I decided we are not informed by the law, but other considerations. Now come to this. You don't just allow anybody appearing before you, and then you issue an order. That cannot even be implemented. Then you will say the parliament does not respect the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, because I can hear my colleagues saying time, with those many remarks, I want to second this motion.
Honourable members, I propose the question. Honourable members, I encourage many of you to just read the standing orders. I propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 175 and further to the resolution of the House of December 14, 2017 on appointment of members to respective committees, this House further approves the following additional appointments to the committees specified hereunder. 1, the Honorable Gideon Sitelu Conchera, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to replace the Honorable Kathuri Murungi, MP. The Honorable Christopher Omlele, MP, and Honorable Edith Nyenze, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning to replace the Honorable Alfred Sambu Ekesa, MP, and David Mboni Mwalika, MP, respectively. Mren, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Sports, Tourism and Culture to take up the slots, and the Committee on Broadcasting and Library to take up the slots of the majority party to replace the Honorable Lillian Tomitom, MP, respectively. The Honorable Silfanas Osoro Onyego, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock to take up the remaining slot for the Minority Party. The Honorable Peter Kaluma MP be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to replace the Honorable Justice Gesito Mugali MP. The Honorable Gladys Wanga MP and the Honorable Justice Gesito Mugali MP be appointed to the Public Investments Committee to replace the Honorable Gideon Muliungi MP and the Honorable Nicholas Tindi Mwale MP, respectively. The Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi MP be appointed to Budget and Appropriations Committee to replace the Honorable Christopher Wangaya Aseka MP. The Honorable Nicholas Tindi Mwale MP and the Honorable Gideon Muliungi MP be appointed to the Departmental Committee to be appointed to the Committee on Delegated Legislation to replace the Honorable Charles Gimose MP and Honorable Abdul Somand Sharif Nasir MP, respectively. The Honorable John Walter Owino MP be appointed to the Select Committee on Member Services and Facilities to replace the Honorable Catherine Wabilianga MP. The Honorable James Lusweti Mukwe MP be appointed to the Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity to replace the Honorable Mohammed Ali Lokiru MP. The Honorable Tom Joseph Kajuang MP be appointed to the Public Accounts Committee to replace the Honorable John Sakwa Bunyasi MP. The Honorable Asha Mohammed Hussein MP be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to replace the Honorable Silvanus Osoro Onyego MP. The Honorable Jeremiah Ekamais Lomurukai MP be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to replace the Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi MP. The Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi MP be appointed to the Select Committee on National Government Constituency Development Fund to replace the Honorable James Lusweti Mukwe. That is the question. You know, is it a point of order, or I say the Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi wants to rise on a point of order? Honourable members, you have only 3 minutes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, in fact, this is an extremely important matter, and in the moving and in the seconding, they have raised a number of important issues that would really benefit to a full House, and we have no quorum, Mr. Speaker. We should ascertain that we have a quorum, Mr. Speaker, before we proceed.
The clerk, can you ascertain whether there is quorum? Can you ascertain about the numbers? Honourable members, the member who is raising his hand up, at this point, the issue which is to be considered is only the issue of quorum. So please, yeah, these things, you will learn with the time, but you are taking too long. I mean, by now you ought to have known that. Once the issue of quorum has been raised, Honourable members, you cannot, the issue of quorum once being raised, you cannot now walk out. It's only the whips. It's only the whips. Honorable Asheli can go. But let's first of all get to know what is the number. There? Honourable members, I confirm what the Honourable Sakwa Bunyasi has said. The House does not have quorum. Ring the bell. Member Voyata, you must remain inside. No, please just inform this member. At this point, unless you want to approach the chair from here, there is nothing you can say from there. Honorable Charles Kilonzo, remember, once you cannot withdraw.
Honorable members, I now direct that the bell stops ringing. We now have the numbers to conduct business. The Honorable TJ Kajwang, what is out of order?
Sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise on Standing Order 95. That, Mr. Speaker, sir, these matters have been debated. They have been canvassed by the leader of majority. They have been responded to by the leader of minority. This is a procedural motion which is for our information. I call that the mover be called to reply.
Honorable members, I put the question, which is that the mover be called to reply. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many of our contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply. Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply.
With a question. Honorable members, allow me now to put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions, honorable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 175, and further to the resolution of the House of December 14, 2017 on appointment of members to respective committees, this House further approves the following additional appointments to the committees specified hereunder. The Honorable Gideon Sitelu Conchela MP to be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to replace Honorable Kaduri Murungi MP. The Honorable Christopher Mulele MP and Honorable Edith Nyenze MP be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning to replace the Honorables Alfred Sambo Wekisa MP and David Boni Malika MP respectively. The Honorable Alfred Sambo Wekisa MP be appointed to the Select Committee on Constitutional Implementation and Oversight to replace the Honorable Tom Joseph Kajwang MP. The Honorable Charles Cameron MP be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Sports, Tourism and Culture and the Committee on Broadcasting and Library to take up slots of the majority party and replace the Honorable Lillian Tomitom, MP. The Honorable Silvana Sosoro Onyego, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Agriculture, Livestock to take up the remaining slot for the minority party. The Honorable Peter Kaluma, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to replace the Honorable Justice Gesicho Mugali, MP. The Honorable Gladys Wanga, MP, and the Honorable Justice Gesicho Mugali, MP, be appointed to the Public Investments Committee to replace the Honorable Gideon Mulyungi, MP, and the Honorable Nicholas Tindi, MP, Mwale, MP, respectively. The Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi, MP, be appointed to the Budget and Appropriation Committee to replace the Honorable Christopher Wangaya Aseka, MP. The Honorable Nicholas Tindi Mwale, MP, and the Honorable Gideon Mulyungi, MP, be appointed to the Committee on Delegated Legislation to replace the Honorable Charles Gimose, MP, and Honorable Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasir, MP, respectively. The Honorable John Walter Owino, MP, be appointed to the Select Committee on Member Services and Facilities to replace the Honorable Catherine Wambilianga, MP. The Honorable James Luswete Mukwe, MP, be appointed to the Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity to replace the Honorable Mohammed Ali Lokiru, MP. The Honorable Tom Joseph Kajwang, MP, be appointed to the Public Accounts Committee to replace the Honorable John Sakwa Bunyasi, MP. The Honorable Asha Mohammed Hussein, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to replace the Honorable Sylvanus Osoro Onyego, MP. The Honorable Jeremiah Ekamais Lomorukai, MP, be appointed to the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to replace the Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi, MP. The Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi, MP, be appointed to the Select Committee on National Government Constituencies Development Fund to replace the Honorable James Luswete Mukwe, MP. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Next order. Honorable members, you recall that we had a motion of adjournment, and it had been carried. I will therefore now give this opportunity to the Honorable Florence Mutua, member for Busia. Those members retreating, kindly retreat so that we can conduct the business. The Honorable Florence Mutua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Mohorod.
Further information is coming that even the driver was over 72 years, which in one way or the other might have implications on fast decision-making when it comes to the road. Mr. Speaker, we all understand and remember when Mr. Honorable Mishuki was in that docket. We had sanity and immediate sanity, and it was respected. But upon his demise, may his soul rest in peace, the sector is in shambles to date. Mr. Speaker, of interest, until this very minute, apart from a very lame condolence